How did it work out? How did it start?
Well, it started because we first heard about them. We saw Arna's Children, which is a documentary made by Giuliano Mercamis on the work that his mother was doing, Arna Mer, in the Jenin refugee camp in a theatre called the Stone Theatre. That theatre was eventually destroyed by the Israeli army during the Second Intifada, and the children who were part of the theatre had grown up and had become, many of them had become militants, fighters, and many of them had died. So the film ends on a fairly bleak note of destruction and so on. Arna herself died of cancer, and that's how the film ends. But we saw the film and we were deeply moved and deeply, in a strange way, inspired by it, because this was very, very difficult circumstances in which people were doing theatre. Some years later, a friend had gone to Palestine and she came back and she said that she saw a theatre in Jenin. When she said that, I got very excited. We found out what the theatre was, and then that's how we discovered it was now called the Freedom Theatre, and Giuliano Mercamis had gone back, and along with two others he had founded the theatre. We wrote to Giuliano. He didn't respond to it, but before he could respond to it, he was killed. So that then became immediately another point of an emotional connect between Jannatim and the Freedom Theatre, because just as we had lost Saftar, and we knew what that meant, we knew the pain, we knew the sense of loss, we knew what it does to you organizationally, creatively, politically, etc. And so it really felt as if one had lost somebody quite close to oneself. And then subsequently, it was a series of chances and so on, but basically we got in touch with them, they got in touch with us. They heard about us, they saw some of our work on YouTube, we saw some of their work on YouTube and so on. And then for about a year or so, more than a year now, we've been in touch with them on a more regular basis. We know the people. Then in January last year, some of them visited us. In April, I went and visited them. Then again in August, a couple of them came down to India, etc. So that's how the whole collaboration took shape.
So when you went to Palestine, what similarities in terms of problems did you think the two countries shared, as in something which is intrinsically common to both the countries, Palestine and India?
It's hard to say that, because actually Palestine is unlike any other place on earth. What the occupation does there is something that is really, it's unimaginable for us in India. We simply don't have anything of that kind. Of course we have problems. This is not to say that we are some heaven of, etc. You go to the northeast, you go to Kashmir, etc. There's very heavy army presence and so on. But it's still not quite what it is like in Palestine. In Palestine itself, the situation is very different in different parts. So, large parts of the West Bank is one kind of situation. You go to Jerusalem, that's a different situation. You go to Gaza, that's a totally different situation. Gaza, of course, is more or less inaccessible, so people like us can't visit Gaza anyway. So it's hard to say what is similar though is the warmth of the people, their spirit of resilience, their spirit of the fighting spirit that you see amongst ordinary people, the spirit of resolute kind of a steadfastness, of never giving up, of standing your ground, of confronting a very mighty adversary and not be cowed down by it. That's what is most amazing about it.
Something I would like to know about is at a point when India is growing closer towards Israel in terms of economy, at that point of time JANAM is collaborating with the Palestinian theatre group. So how would you like to comment on that?
You see, our government unfortunately is more or less on a steady path of abrogating on the promises of our own national independence movement. People like Rabindranath Tagore, Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, etc., and right down to the later Congress leaders, Indira Gandhi and so on, had committed themselves to the Palestinian struggle for independence. And because we are an ex-colonial country ourselves, we understand what that means. Unfortunately, since the time that the economy has been liberalized, we have aligned our economy and therefore our foreign policy also much more to the US. Now every friend of the US has to be a friend of ours. So therefore now there's a reorientation of our foreign policy towards Israel. we've had our president visiting Israel recently. He was the first Indian president to visit. Our foreign minister has recently been there, and there is talk of the Indian prime minister also going to Israel. So there's all of that happening but that's at the government level. What's really important is at the people level. I think there is a great deal of sympathy and support for the Palestinian cause, because it's a cause of justice. It's the cause of equality. It's the cause of peace. The Palestinians are not hate mongers. They are not warmongers. They are not violent people. What they are fighting is a just fight for resistance. And I think it deserves the support of all progressive, freedom-living, democratic people across the world, not just in India. What's also important to realize is that despite the fact that in Palestine, like everywhere else in the world, there's a whole range of political opinion, from the Hamas to the Fatah to the left-wing parties, PFLP, DFLP, there's a Communist Party, then there are a whole lot of other organizations, there are civil society groups, there are NGOs, etc., etc. All of that is there. But the Palestinian struggle for independence and the Palestinian resistance is actually truly a people's resistance that is a non-sectarian resistance. It is not a sectarian resistance, it's a secular resistance. And I think that is what connects India and Palestine. That's what we have to learn from, especially at a time when our society is being sought to be pushed more and more onto a right-wing path, and there's much more open and aggressive attempts to communalize the atmosphere, vitiate it on caste lines, on religion, region, language, etc. All kinds of sectarian divides are sought to be created and to be fostered at the moment, and so therefore it's really important for us to learn from the Palestinians. So therefore for us really working with the Palestinians is not it's not a one-way solidarity street. Just as we extend our solidarity towards the Palestinian cause, similarly we need their solidarity as well, because we need to learn from them. For me really, you can only claim to be human if you are in support of the Palestinian cause for independence. If you do not support that cause, you really you are giving up a vital part of your humanity, and so therefore really it seems to me that all progressive people across the world should stand in support and solidarity with the Palestinian cause for independence.
And what about the future of JANAM in collaboration with this Palestinian theatre?
Well, right now we are not thinking too far ahead. At the moment we are in the last phase of this very, very exciting historic collaboration. We've been to 9 states. By the time the tour ends, we'll have done 11 cities, more than 30 performances. Many of these performances have been massive performances, thousands of people. But also not just the people who came for the performances, also we've reached people through the press, media, etc., all kinds of things. So it's really been very exciting for us. Even creatively it's been very exciting, because we've worked with actors who speak a different language. These are theatre students. They're young, energetic, very creative, full of life, full of hope, optimism. That's what has been very inspiring for us. It's been particularly exciting for me, personally, because I worked along with Faisal, and the two of us have co-directed the play, and that's easier said than done. It's not every day that you see people who've never worked together before. He and I had never worked, but the fact that we had never worked together before never came in the way of us establishing a very, very good, very positive working relationship. And so it's been really exciting for me to work with Faisal and to bounce ideas off him and so on, and to work with Indian and Palestinian actors, to work with 2 languages, the plays in Hindi and Arabic. So that's been very interesting to see how that has evolved. So all in all, it's been damn exciting.
And just two words, if you could say about the form of theatre that they're doing. Is it a new form? Is it very new? Is it?
I don't think it's a new form. What we've tried to do is to evolve a play that works in the open. This performance, of course, is happening in an auditorium, but it's a play that has been evolved for the open. It's also a play that we wanted to keep not very long, so it's 25 minutes. It's a short enough play for it to hold attention in any kind of circumstances, whether it's in the open, whether it's in the closed, whatever it is, right? And we've tried to, what's been exciting, as I said, is working with two languages, which on the proscenium stage it happens often, but in open air performances like this on the streets, street plays, this is not the usual thing that happens. And I'm very glad to say that Indian audiences have really embraced Arabic as a language, as if it's their own language, and that's been really exciting.
And no problems whatsoever from the government or from the other parts while the play was being performed? No disruption occurred?
Well, no, not really. Yeah, nothing worth speaking about.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, pleasure.